Let me introduce you to Carolyn, this mother of two who was struggling with this phobia called emetophobia, which is the fear of vomiting, and it started to completely take over her life, where it was even impacting everything that she ate if she was able to leave her house. And it was really starting to paint her life into a corner. But watch this video and live demonstration where I use heart-centered NLP or neuro-linguistic psychology to not only quickly get to the root cause of Carolyn's phobia, but also uproot it and permanently dissolve this life debilitating phobia for her. She's been struggling for this, just to give you some context, for over 35 years, but it took us less than 60 minutes to remove it from her life. That's pretty incredible. So if you're struggling with something in your life that is severely holding you back, or if you're looking to become the most valuable coach you can be to help people just like I'm about to help Carolyn, then watch this full video and be open to receiving your own transformation while watching Carolyn's.
I'm feeling a lot of things.
Yeah, tell me what you're experiencing inside.
I was thinking about it this morning. It feels kind of like whenever I decided to do the CCB program, where I was like, when I decided to do it, I told my husband, I was like, you have to be ready. We have to be ready because this is going to change everything. Like all the limiting beliefs have to be left in the past. We have to be ready for a different way of life because this is it. We're on the precipice of it. So it's kind of feeling like that now with this, where it's this kind of like, this has been so fused with me for 30 plus years that I've struggled with it. I want it to go away. And of course, that means my mind is constantly ingraining it further and further because I'm constantly thinking about it and further ingraining. So it's, it's incredible to think of a life without it. And I'm really excited and like, okay, here we go. Here's the next big thing.
I love it, and I don't know exactly the word for it, but there's a feeling of pre-healing, pre-transformation that
Mm.
I've learned to calibrate to, and that's exactly what this is. It's when people are in alignment and they're ready. I had somebody reach out that I've probably been working with, and he asked me, he's like, is there ever somebody you haven't been able to help? And I'm like, no. There's people who are addicted to their suffering or people who identify with their suffering and they get significance from it and they don't want to let it go because there's three
Mhm.
different kinds of attention. There's
Yeah.
positive attention, negative attention, and no attention. And if they get rid
Hmm.
of the negative attention, no attention is worse. Positive or negative attention is better than positive or than nothing. And they
Right.
don't know how to get positive. That's why they
Yep.
went to negative. So a lot of people, some people won't let that go because if they get no attention, it
It's
won't
work.
work. So yeah. So but 100%
Exactly.
people who are ready, like absolutely. Yeah.
Yay. Well, I'm excited. Yeah, that's like malingering. I've seen that kind of stuff. I've cut stuff like that out of my life, people like that out of my life. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean it's the whole like you are what you eat, but more importantly, you are who and what you surround yourself with.
Everything you consume. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I even like talk to people about like scrolling on social media. It's like if you see anything you don't like that's not in alignment, you need to block it or exit. If you scroll past it, you're telling your unconscious mind and whatever's listening or
Mm.
tracking people, it's like that you're good with it in your
Yep.
life. So
Yeah.
you gotta
Yeah. Exactly.
use your conscious mind wisely because the conscious mind's the only thing that can delete or reject things,
Hmm.
and you gotta
Hmm.
consciously reject things. Yeah.
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 Agreed.
So you said it had been decades, like 30 some years.
Yeah. Um, I I thought this was tied to a blocked memory that I have. But I asked my mom after we scheduled this, I asked what was the first time that I panicked about this, that I reacted this way. And she said it was the first time you ever got sick when you were like 4 or 5. And that would have been before the blocked memory that I have. So I have no idea where it comes from, why it's there. But yeah, she said I was probably about 4 or 5. And I'm 39 this Friday. So it's been a long time.
This might be easier than I thought because it's could be like what I went through too. First of all, because it's a phobia and phobias range, like how we talk about, or I talk about trauma. Like trauma could be the first time your parents say no to you and you realize you're not the center of the universe, or getting tied down and seeing your whole family murdered in front of you. Like trauma can range. It's dependent on what age a person is, all kinds of stuff. But so are phobias. Some people say they have phobias and it's just really a fear, an extreme fear. True phobia is like if it gets triggered, like the person is unresourcefully pervasive in life and like it's just it factors everything. So but if something ever were to get triggered, whether it's like a phobia or allergy, because actually I clear allergies from people too, and you don't want to like activate anaphylactic shock, which I never have. But what I'm trying to say is if things get too intense, too real, to whatever you want to, how you want to frame it, there's just let me know and I can lessen it, lower it, distance it
Okay.
for you.
Okay.
But how much are you op how much can you talk about it without going into it?
I think I can talk about it pretty openly. The last time I started kind of having physical symptoms when I was talking about it was probably a few months ago now. And it was on the heels of a trigger.
So if you can just describe like high level, then what is it? Just if somebody's watching and they want to really learn and maybe transform while watching. It's like what is the name of it? And I already know it, but just if you can share the name of it and yeah, just your general experience about it.
So it's emetophobia, phobia around vomiting. I've since I was a kid, apparently my entire life, I completely panic whenever well, it shifted over the years. So it used to be panicking whenever I felt sick or I was going to throw up or I was throwing up. Um, Shaking. And my mom said too that that first time she said, you were just shaking like a leaf. So just completely shaking. What I'm realizing now, my hands will start to tingle. Um, I just get really scared for some reason. And I remember growing up too, whenever I started realizing, you start to learn how it feels. And whenever I would feel like maybe I'm gonna throw up, I would just try everything I could do to not engage my abs just because that could trigger me throwing up. So
Hmm.
I remember this one time, I was probably a teenager or like 12. I was crawling on my hands and knees from my room to outside just in case I threw up because I was feeling nauseous. I remember because my brother was like, "What are you doing?" And my mom was like, "Leave her alone, just leave her alone." And I got outside because I know going outside for whatever reason, being outside helps to calm me down. I can breathe better. Um, my experience now where it shifted, well, and back then too, I would be very anxious if anyone around me was throwing up too. It was like a sixth sense of being able to pick up on when someone would throw up and I would get out of there really fast. Um, and I would be very scared of picking up something from someone else. Like I remember this time my brother and my cousin had come home on a flight from somewhere and we went to pick him up. And my brother was laughing because he was like, "Oh, he threw up on the ride down." And I was sitting in the back just covering my mouth because I didn't want to breathe it in just in case it was something I was going to catch. And my mom was like, "It's not, it's no virus. He just got sick from the plane. It's fine." But now, as I have thrown up over the years and all of my life, I'm much more comfortable with myself throwing up. Now, what I've come to learn is that when my kids are sick, when my kids are throwing up, uh, and if I think it could even come close to that, I go into a full blind panic, and I can't use my resources. I'm shaking. I get lightheaded. I'll start to get some tunnel vision sometimes, like start to black out a little bit. um can't not taking deep breaths, just don't know what to do. um and that's where it's really like I can manage whatever fine if I'm throwing up, but now I'm learning it's getting in the way of me being the kind of mom that I want to be. And it's again it's this intense fear of like, We can't take him to a trampoline park because she threw
Mm,
up for the first time after we went to one of those places. We're gonna get sick. I don't know if we want to go to this birthday party because she could get sick. So it's an intense fear that then closes in my world to try
mhm,
to just prevent and avoid as much as I can. And anytime I get triggered whenever my 2-year-old whines, when she does this whiny cry, because she was the best baby and so just gentle, happy all the time. The first time she started to do this whine cry was when she was 18 months old, and whenever she felt like she was going to throw up, and she threw up. So my brain now attaches that, and I have this trigger when she whine cries where I start to panic. I start to get really anxious. I start sweating, my stomach gets upset, the full thing. And I mean, it just happened the other day. So it's just getting in the way of me being who I want to be
right.
as a mother.
Yeah. What specifically triggers that? Is it a visual, something you see, something you hear, something you feel? How come? Because like each gun, because triggers come from firearms, but
Mhm.
if you remove the trigger, the gun can't shoot. If people get
Mhm.
triggered, there's a mental metaphorical trigger. If you remove that, it can't shoot. Or sometimes, which is kind of cool with this kind of coaching, is you keep the trigger, you just change the bullets. You
Okay.
keep the response. So sometimes we can get rid of the gun altogether. Sometimes we can just take the trigger out. Sometimes we actually we keep the trigger in the gun and we change the bullet. So it's something like you actually would the response that you would want. But what specifically is the first thing? How do you know to start to feel this way? What has to happen?
I think it may depend, but I know for sure it's auditory. So that whiny cry that she does, um, that's a big trigger. And then I think it's also if she a visual, just if she seems like she's low energy and not exactly acting herself.
So if you were deaf, if your ears didn't work, would this phobia still exist?
Yes, whenever she would actually throw up, or I would see her cry
So there's an extra,
uncontrollably.
yeah, there's an external trigger that starts it, but then there's something happens internal. It activates something. Like you ever seen the movie Inside Out,
Yeah,
where they have like emotions, like, all right, we're doing this, now we got to do this, or anchor's up, this and that. So it's kind of the same thing. It's a metaphor movie, cartoon, but it's kind of, in a way, true. So you see that, you hear that external trigger, then what's the first thing that happens inside? What's the first step inside?
anxiety, just intense anxiety, panic. Oh my God, what if she's sick? Oh my God, she's gonna throw up. What do I do?
And how many times have you experienced throwing up, and if you would put a number to it and experience other people throwing up?
Oh gosh, I I don't even know. 100 times.
So what, and I'm just curious, what's the fear of it happening again? Because it's happened 100 times.
I think as I've been thinking about it and ingraining it, I think it's different with her because I'm responsible for her, so I have to be involved. I can't just avoid it.
Could she die by throwing up?
Consciously, I know that she cannot.
But
I just
unconsciously, the 4 to 5 year old you feels that way.
possibly. That I think that comes from a conscious place because I'm thinking, well, why would I panic unless my body thought that this was something that's life or death?
Yeah, this is probably what I feel like is going on because like there's a technical phobia cure, and there's different like technical techniques for this, but it might just be easier, but we'll find out. Um, I don't. I would say it would be a phobia for me, but I'm not a person who. There's people who like hear people throw up and then they start like the sounds that people, that
Yeah,
sound.
that's not me.
Yeah, and I just never. The sound's fine, and even the smell. I used to be an EMT and smelled some
Yeah.
things, so I don't prefer the smell of vomit, but the smell doesn't trigger it necessarily for me. It's more of like a feeling in the past, but I used to resist. I used to hate throwing up.
Mm.
And I would do everything. I don't know if I would loosen my stomach. I should have tried that strategy, but I tried everything, like try to relax and the breathing,
Hmm.
the shakiness, the heat, hot flashes,
Yeah.
and just like I don't want to, and disassociate, just all kinds of things, and then nothing really worked. If it was going to happen, it was going to happen. Looking back,
Right.
of course, whatever resists persists. So the more we resist,
Right.
the less going to happen. But it wasn't until, and I'm also like a violent thrower upper, like
Yeah.
loudest per
Like
like.
loud. Yeah.
I told Amanda like I'm the loudest person. She's like, no, I am. I'm like, whatever. So then we were kind of like debating or whatever, but I think I won. When I throw up, it's like you can hear it rooms away, and I can't
Yeah.
control it. Like it's like
Yeah.
everything comes like out, and my body's like I get cramps because it my body flexes so much. But then like sometimes it's hard to breathe. Like like
Yeah. Yeah. You have to catch your breath and your body's just still clenching. Yeah.
and the shaky. Everything you said is 100%. And um, it wasn't until I'm trying to think, let's say 32, I'm gonna say. I've traveled to India like several times, 6 times or so,
Wow.
and like doing monk training, basically.
Yeah.
Become a monk, which is basically like receive monk training, but go back and live life as a fully functioning monk, not like giving up necessarily
Yeah.
the things, and helping people from in life kind of a thing instead of people having to go to the Himalayas kind of a thing.
Right.
And one time, like things would, for me, it was a little bit, it was force multiplied because when I was, I think, 5, my brother and my cousin put me in a dryer. It was like a front load, not a top load, and they turned it on. It was about 30 seconds. And they thought it was funny and whatever, and I didn't. And I had to
Yeah.
kick my way out. Like as I was tumbling or whatever, I had to like kick my way out. And obviously the door is open, it doesn't go, and it was getting hot. And so I kicked it out, and it finally like they let me out, and it could have died for sure. But since
Yeah.
I don't like being out of physical control,
Mm.
so the positive side is, at one point, and I could still do it, I still might. I was gonna set a Guinness Book of World Records for like the exercise Swiss ball, where like it's the burst resistant, not like there's really crappy kinds that are too unstable, but like they're the professional kind. But I would
Yeah.
jump on top, like jump up and down, or I would jump from ball to ball to ball. I was like, I think I got 12 is the most I did.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
and because I don't like being out of physical control and
Mm.
years of being like a corrective exercise personal trainer, core specialist, I did a lot of like cool ninja stuff. And so that
Hmm.
was the positive side to it. The negative side was going in airplanes and turbulence. It's like, oh, I hate that. I don't like generally not driving a car because I can get
Yeah.
so so that was part of it for me was like I don't like being out of physical control. And then I get nauseous or like boats, like oceans, forget about it. Like I'm
Yeah.
good. So there's certain things that would trigger eating really poorly, drinking too much,
Right.
which I think I've only thrown up from
Yeah.
drinking 3 times. It's not a lot. I've never really been a big drinker. Um, but so I started to cut things out that I don't need, so to speak. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, I'm not gonna go on cruises and whatever. But when I was 32, I was in India. Amanda was there as well during this time, and I started to like had to throw up. But this whole process was to really go into things and experience things. And we were supposed to go to these, what are they called? Classes. We'll call them classes. But I was staying back because I just didn't really feel good. And I just like was laying in bed. And then I was also eating really, really clean at the time. And I didn't do any
Yeah.
like pop. In Midwest, we call it pop, but
Yeah.
cola, soda. But some guy he was from Sweden. There's people from all around, there's 27 different countries and people from all around the world. And this guy said that his stomach wasn't feeling good. So he went to the store and got like a bottle of Coke. And I'm like, I don't do pop and I don't do high fructose corn syrup. But I was like,
Right.
but it helps, whatever. So like I actually did, and it actually did help a little bit.
Mm.
But this was for 24 hours. And I think no, I'm trying to remember it back, but I think I threw up, but I didn't. I was resisting, and it was terrible. And Amanda actually came in. There's a bathroom, and I was like in the shower. I think I was like on my hands and knees shaking, and then just sweating. And she had to
Yeah.
put like cold things in my back. And then she was being so nice, and no one's ever done this for me. And she was like, she was touching me with this like cold wet cloth or something like that. But if you're throwing up and sweaty, you're not generally the most touchable, you know what I mean? But she was just touching
Yeah.
me a little bit, and it was really nice. And she's like, it's okay, like showing the divine feminine. And like it's okay.
Yeah.
Like if you throw up, it's fine. Like you can. And for me, I'm like, I don't look, I hate this or whatever. So I think I did, and it sucked. Or I didn't. I can't remember. It was either I did or I didn't. But anyways, it was the feeling was still there. I
Mm.
think I resisted it. I think that's what happened. I think I resisted it. But anyways. But I was sitting by myself, and even though I wasn't part of the class, I was still in this really high vibrational place, and everything was a meditation. You don't have to close your eyes and do Om or different mudras. You could just be with the what is. And so I was really starting to treat myself how Amanda treated me. She treated me with so much love and allowance and acceptance. And I was like, well, I've never done that before. I've always resisted and kind of hated this part. What if I just go into it? And then I started to go into it. And I think I was throwing up. So yeah, that was throwing up. And for 24 hours, I didn't eat and I was getting dehydrated. And I was constantly throwing up. That's what it was. And it was like around the 24-hour mark and trying salt and electrolytes, but I would throw those up too. So there was kind of iffy if I need to get an IV. And it's like
Yeah.
118 degrees out in India. Air conditioning works 50% of the time. So it was like, what is the perfect storm? And really went into the feeling, which is something I never done before. I was always hating it, resisting it. And
Yeah.
it went to when I was about 4 or 5. I remember being sick I mean, I would throw up as a baby, but like that's nothing. That's not really throwing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I think I was like 4 or 5 years old. And I remember like staying home, like I was sick. I didn't
Yeah.
understand. I didn't have a mental file what sick was.
Right.
And I was throwing up and I was just like, what? Like basically, what the F is going on? And
Right.
my parents were both like, they weren't reacting traumatic or whatever. They were just like, oh, you're throwing up. And I'm like, I felt like I was dying.
Yeah.
Nobody told me like a heads up. So what happens is nobody said we have these bodies, they're awesome, but sometimes we got to get rid of things. Sometimes we eat things that we shouldn't eat. Our body's giving us feedback, and then we can throw up that way.
Mm.
Sometimes we can get sick in our body. This is a way to get rid of it. We get rid of things through our breath, through our urine, through our bowels, and through our skin. Sometimes we get it through like for our stomach. Like there's something we eat doesn't agree with, the body doesn't want it, gets rid of it, or trying to get rid of a virus or something. And sometimes we throw up to get out of things, like get out of going to school or get out of doing things. So here's the parameters and here's why, and here's how to throw up. To relax your body, to allow yourself to do it and say, basically, this is what I started to do. Like I got this insight. I actually asked for the divine presence to come surround and go inside of the part of me that hated throwing up and resisted throwing up. And what happened was something switched. I actually asked the divine, give me the ability to fully surrender and accept throwing up. And
Mm.
then all you got to do is ask, and then it was given. And then I remember looking at I had a banana. So people were like, would give me, potassium but I was like, everything like water's throwing up. So I remember peeling this banana and I did something I'd never done before. And I'm holding it with my right hand. I'm laying down. I said, body, I'm attempting to eat this banana, take up like one bite at a time to give you potassium, to give you some carbohydrates, some calories, some nutrients. My intention is to help you. If you don't want it, you let me know. If
Mm.
you're gonna throw up, that's fine. Like I'll be there with you. I got your back.
Mm.
And then I slowly went because if it's like, I had any feeling, I was gonna stop. I said, I'm listening, I'm giving it 100% of my
Right.
attention. So I took a bite of the banana and I'm like chewing slowly. I'm like every bite, every second, I'm listening, I'm feeling. I'm like, I'm doing this for you, but I'm watching you energetically, feeling you, and then swallowed. And I said, let me know if you need more. Cause I'm like, here, it's basically, if Amanda was sick, it's how I would treat her.
Right.
If it anyone else in my life, it was how I would treat them. But I never
Mhm.
treated myself the same way because I didn't
Mm.
learn what he taught me. So I went through this profound experience. I think I did eat the full banana and I didn't throw up. Then that was in 2000, like let's say 2012. I think the next time I threw up was literally 2000, I think 19. I went to Egypt and we were on this boat. It wasn't quite the ocean, it was in the Nile River, but it was what
Rockin'.
but I did throw up there and I got the world record for being the loudest on the boat of all time. But the difference was is like there was just a lot of different factors. I had a tooth thing and I was taking medication, so I was really off. My pH and toxic level was off because I had to take like antibiotics and medication.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was even like drinking like a green drink. I have a green drink, but if your body's more acidic, if you eat
Mm.
really we eat poor as human beings, we repel the good stuff. If you eat really good, you repel the bad. It's just how everyone's bodies work. So I remember having a couple of drinks. I'm like, oh, I felt nauseous, but I eventually did throw up. And it was because of the boat. But this was the first time I threw up in my life where I had my back. I picked up where I left off because I didn't throw
Yeah.
up after that 24 hours in India. And I said
Mm.
like anytime. And I felt maybe six times nauseous. And I'm like, I got you. It's like I'm ready for you. And then I did throw up. And it was the first time I threw up with the divine, with feminine energy, with allowing. I'm like, you can be sweaty, you can be loud, you can be violent because that's how the words I would use, violent throwing up, but you don't have to. Like, I got your back. I'm not going anywhere. You can throw up as many times. I just asked, like, let us breathe. Let's take some
Right.
in between. And it was like, it was still throwing up, but it was like the nicest throw up experience I've ever had because there was love, there was care, and it was by
Yeah.
myself. There was nobody, I didn't feel alone because I was with myself.
Right.
But I went and had to and talked to like my younger you and said, like, I got your back. You're never going to throw up alone ever again. It's me and the divine. So like my
Mm.
higher self, which is my current self, your current self is your higher self of your younger self. So my
Sure.
higher self and the divine together was going to be with whatever that. And I feel that's been integrated. That part's been integrated growing up. And I think I've only thrown up once since being in Texas.
Hmm.
And it's the same thing. And it was 25% of my last throw up. It was just like I threw up and it wasn't violent. I was standing up even too. I bent over and like, oh, I'm gonna throw up. And then it was like the quickest throw up, 25% of the intensity, 100% of the acceptance. And it's like my body's starting to get more conditioned. But every time I feel nauseous, it's like I drop everything. I got your back. And I want to get some sort of AC. Like I want cool because I'm hot flashes.
Hmm.
Um, usually like my position is like on all fours by the toilet. So lift up the seats because I don't want to be wait, no. One seat down. Thank you. Sometimes put your forearms. And I don't look. I don't know your strategies. I don't look.
Yeah.
I throw up, my eyes are closed and I flush. I don't want to see.
Oh.
uh, Some people look. I don't want to. But that's what I did, and that's what really worked. And your story really reminded me of my experience, which was
Yeah.
first time I remember I stayed home and my mom was cool, but I was like, I feel like I'm throwing up. I feel like the whole universe is having an earthquake. That's what it felt like
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
5-year-old. How do you feel
Yeah.
about
Um, Reactive.
it?
My I forgot to, this is a part of it. My throat kind of started getting tight, so I got my hair off of my neck, and that's whenever growing up as a kid. Um, and I'm realizing now too, as a teenager, it probably intensified with hormones because it was more intense with my last pregnancy hormones as well. I just can't have stuff touching my neck. I feel like I'm choking. I feel like I can't breathe. So but yeah, my throat, I think, started to tighten a little bit while listening, and I had to get my hair off of my neck and try to relax a little bit. Started getting a little bit of a headache, started feeling a little bit of the lightheadedness. Um, like all that sounds great.
So let's
And,
do that for you.
huh?
So let's do that for
Let's,
you now.
yeah, because like as you're talking about like just accept it and like you can throw up as many times as you want. My brain's like, no, no, don't throw up at all and only throw up once if you have to. Just we don't want to do it. It's
Yeah.
scary.
Scary for the, how old is that part of you that feels scared?
I think
First
probably, I mean, I know my mom said like five, but I feel like it's like three.
three. Okay. So have you considered, so the 3-year-old you is at a different timeline, right? So not in the present moment. It's at a
Mhm.
different state. Did was it in Texas?
No, 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 it was here, Texas.
Okay. But a different house
Yes.
and a different decades. There's a lot of things that were different.
Mhm.
First question for you is, can you still, according to your unconscious mind or the divine, can you still have this response reaction phobia if that part of you is in a different space and different time? If we remove it from the timeline to a different timeline.
I don't know.
So let's do
But
this.
it
This is so easy. So what is your current relationship with the divine right this moment?
uh feels pretty strong. I feels pretty strong and also feel a little nervous.
The divine feels nervous, you feel nervous, the younger part feels
Me,
nervous.
me. I feel nervous because I feel like I need to connect with the divine to have that ultimate acceptance, but I feel like the divine is going to be like, you need to let go, and I'm afraid to let go.
Let's do this first. Let's do step by step because we're not trying to rip a band-aid off. We're trying to like dip one toe in the ocean at a time.
Yeah.
And then it's trust. So if you could ask the divine just to fill up the room that you're in, every square inch of the room with its unconditional love and light and divine presence and everything. And how's that
Mhm.
so far?
That feels good.
Okay, we're not letting, yeah, just expanding. And then you can ask for it to come inside of you to do the same thing to fill up every cell, to illuminate that, to connect that, just fill it up with divine unconditional love. We're not even trying to change anything, we're just connecting.
Okay,
So how's that?
good.
Okay, step by step. And you're so like we're not going to go too slow or too fast. It's just one step at a time. So then ask that divine presence that you've developed the relationship with decades of work, so to speak, development, and then ask for that divine presence to multiply itself and then travel to that younger you, 3, 4, 5 back then, and gently, without trying to change or do anything, just fill up the room, surround with protection and support. Not control, not bossiness, just unconditional, the same unconditional love that's in the room for you now.
Okay. Yeah, that feels more stable.
Perfect. Okay. Is this younger you willing to allow the divine to come inside of her to fill up every part of her without trying to change it? Just basically almost like turning the light bulb on.
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead and ask for the divine presence to surround and go inside of every part of her, creating even more stability and love, unconditional and togetherness.
Okay.
Okay. So are we good so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Is this younger you willing to allow the divine to escort the younger you from that time and that space to the present moment?
To to transport?
Yeah, to bring her from where she's at to where you're at.
Yes.
So go ahead and allow the divine to do that, whether it's like a one end of a rainbow from there to here, or like a very stable pumpkin from Cinderella, or whatever would work best.
Okay.
So can you feel that younger you in the room right now?
Yes.
And how do you, the both of each of all of you feel about giving each other a hug?
Good.
Okay, so give her a big fat hug.
Okay.
And without trying to change anything or do anything, just say, I love you. I got your back no matter what.
I love you. I got your back no matter what.
How does she receive that?
She is scared and crying, but comforted.
Scared of what?
What could happen?
Is she scared of what could happen without the divine and without you? Or with the divine and with you?
Think without. Well, I know without.
So ask her if she's willing to allow the divine presence to surround and go inside of the fear itself without trying to change it or just connecting. Essentially, when you have a lamp and you plug it in and turn it on, it doesn't necessarily change, it's just illuminated. So plugged in doesn't necessarily equal change.
Yeah. Okay.
So how does that feel to have that presence surrounding go inside of that fear itself?
Feels unifying.
Okay. What, according to the divine, what does she need to receive or release now? That will help all of you get your needs met.
I think she needs to receive comfort and maybe some understanding to release fear and to release, well, yeah, I guess fear of lack of control and not knowing
And not knowing what's happening, correct?
what's happening, what's going to happen, why it's happening.
Exactly. Ask the divine to instill that information into her right now in a way that it knows she would understand it best.
Okay.
Very good. How does she receive that?
She's calmer.
Does she realize that we're not trying to change her, force her, we're literally trying to give her what she needs and looking for?
Yeah. It's more like the divine has almost an amusement of like, oh, this is that bodily experience. This is new.
And then there's ways to make it worse, which is resisting it and tensing
Mhm.
up or trying to control it. Or there's ways for making it better, which is allowing the divine flow, allowing the body to do what it's designed to do for actually our survival and for a good
Mhm.
thing. It's better. So many times in life, it's better out than in.
Mhm.
So how does that feel to have like that new divine experience, kind of with fresh eyes and a fresh experience to like, oh, this is that human bodily sensation.
It feels more comfortable. That physical experience is still uncomfortable, but it feels more comfortable within that.
And through repetitions, is it possible for you to learn how to become comfortably uncomfortable?
Yes.
And the skill or art of learning how to become comfortably uncomfortable in life itself is such a huge resource and advantage. that can be applied to so many areas of life. Is there anything else that she needs to receive or release or hear from the divine or you before she comes inside and slowly begins to grow up in consciousness from 3 all the way to the age second moment that you are now, fully allowing you to get that part of you back while simultaneously allowing her to receive everything you've learned between then and now. Of course, go ahead.
I think I'm as her higher self, I'm having a little discomfort of like me being there with her and hugging her. I'm having a fear of getting thrown up on. So I'm a little uncomfortable with her.
Well, what direction is her mouth facing?
What?
What direction is her mouth facing? Because you can only get thrown up if a mouth is
Towards me,
towards you. So
like
can you
holding
turn
her.
her around or ask the divine to come in between the both of you?
I don't know how to turn her around while still giving comfort.
Can you ask the divine to go in between the both of you?
Yes.
Can you ask the divine if she is gonna throw up, let it be in a different dimension so it doesn't impact you?
Yeah. Yeah.
How's that
That's
feel?
yeah,
Okay.
that feels good. It feels smoother.
So how's that feel inside right now?
And that feels better. That feels less resistant.
How much comfort does she need in order to come inside? She would actually turn around and come inside, so you're facing the same way. And then she would slowly or gently grow up. And it doesn't have to be, it could happen in a few seconds, minutes, hours, months. It doesn't really matter when. It just, the process will start whenever it's time.
Okay.
And then once the 3, you, her, and the divine turn into one integrated being, then that's the ultimate. Because you only got psychologically and spiritually separated from yourself back then because you didn't have everything you needed to fully process what that was.
Yeah.
Now that
Yeah.
you do, so it's very natural in divine timing to reintegrate and grow up. But again, we're not rushing it. I'm just pre-framing it and telling you the future steps,
Yeah.
which is going to take as long as it's going to take.
Mhm.
Very good.
Feels expansive.
You have more freedom and choices and option and possibilities.
Yeah.
How does your neck and chest feel right now?
Feel good, feel normal, open.
So you said just not that long ago, whether it was today or a few days ago, that your youngest daughter threw up?
No, she just recently that I got triggered by it. It's
Triggered by it. Okay.
a constant thing. She last threw up probably like August last year, July or August last year.
You know something interesting about this? Like once this gets upgraded and healed, how many times, how many events or experiences happen that cause you to be triggered are going to significantly go down? Because it's only really
Right,
happening to get you to get to this point.
right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. Good. Yeah, because it has seemed like there's some fear, and I like at one time, one of the times I got triggered, she was laying down for sleep and she started doing that whine cry, and I went in to check on her. She's doing the whine cry and I get triggered, and she's I held her, I hugged her, and she started coughing, and I got scared that it was a throwing up, and I like bring her out into the hallway, and I told my husband I need him, and he comes in there and he's like, what are you doing? What do you need?" And I'm standing there like literally like a deer in the headlights. Like I couldn't, because I also didn't want to say I think she's gonna throw up because I was scared then she would throw up. So it's just this, yeah, deer
And
in the
she's two,
headlights and oh my God, but she was fine. I have two,
she's,
yeah.
she's 2 years old.
Oh,
How?
she's two.
So how can a 3-year-old take care of a 2-year-old?
Not well.
That to me, that makes sense, like a deer in the
Yeah.
headlights. You have a woman's body, but these younger parts or programs get stunted, get created and then stunted at a specific age. So that makes sense. Your husband's like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "I'm a 3-year
Yeah.
old trying to take care of a 2
Right.
I don't
Right.
know how, because nobody took
Yeah.
care of me."
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the times that growing up for me, I know the times that helped at least calm me down a little bit were, well, this one specific time, I remember my dad explaining your body just needs to get rid of something that's not good for it. And it helped.
But you said earlier you didn't know what, why, and how, and he told
Yeah.
you what, but not why or how.
Well, later, as I was
Correct.
older. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yeah, which also I know going outside for fresh air really helps too. And I think that's also tied back to one time I got off the bus and I didn't feel good. And I told my dad I don't feel good. Like, I think I might throw up, and took me to the bathroom, and he was like, nothing's happening. Like, maybe you just when you start feeling this way? And I told him on the bus, and he said, well, maybe you just need some fresh air. And I went outside and I felt better. So I've now, and when my daughter throws up too, the last time she did throw up and I was on my own, I I just took her outside. I just took her outside and held her with a towel on us just to calm me down, to calm her down and let her just fall asleep. So I think that also helped to learn, oh, okay, well, how is maybe getting some fresh air that helps me to feel better. But it was still this, like you're saying, like just kind of pieces and not all at the first time to have a full understanding and acceptance.
And what happens if you visualize and imagine that fresh air when your dad took you and you started bringing that fresh air and multiplying it every time in the past whenever you felt like you're going to throw up, or even bringing it in the future? There are times when you or somebody else you might know might throw up. You're going to actually bring that fresh air there ahead of time.
That would be amazing.
So go ahead and have your unconscious mind and the divine do that now.
Okay. That feels better.
Very good. And Carolyn, can you think about a time in the future, perhaps the next time when you or somebody else might feel nauseous or given the signs and you would have responded the old way? How do you feel like you're going to be responding differently now moving forward?
I think in a calmer way, still uncomfortable, but calmer.
Has the divine yet surrounded and gone inside the uncomfortability?
I guess not.
So
No.
if you were to ask the divine to do that now, what would that feel like afterwards?
Feels more stable.
This isn't at the end of the day uncomfortability under preparedness. And if you had what you needed and had the resources and support, then wouldn't you not feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, I mean, because that physical discomfort is what I hate, but it doesn't actually last that long.
Who hates it?
Me
How old is this part of you that hates it?
now,
Okay. And is the divine surrounded and gone inside the part that hates it?
no.
And if it happens now, what happens to the hatred? If the divine surrounds all the emotions, all the sensations, all the thoughts, and the space in between.
That's calm. And that makes sense going back to just experiencing, observing, not judging. 'Cause I had someone tell me when I was a kid that she said when I have to throw up, I try to throw up like a cat because they're more graceful in how they do it. And honestly, I get annoyed when our cats throw up. I don't admire the grace. But that does make sense, right? It's also it's kind of like hypnobirthing for labor. Just relax your muscles and let your body do what it needs to do. And it's much easier.
Trust.
It's not uncomfortable.
Mhm. Having that trust in your body,
Um,
trusting in the divine, trusting in yourself.
Trust that it knows what to do. Yeah.
So the paradox that I have that you might now have that you said, let's hurry up and get to this so you can do it, is the more I had trust or had or have trust and connection and teamwork with throwing up. Like I said, I've thrown up twice since 2012.
Yeah.
And it's because
Yeah.
I'm fully welcoming it. And I don't know, I'm gonna say 20 times feeling
Yeah.
nauseous. And I measure like out of 10. If it's a five, I'm paying attention, but if it's like a seven, if it's an eight, I'm not doing nothing. Nine, I'm by the toilet.
Yeah.
10 is something's happening. But like
Yeah.
every time it doesn't change. My strategy doesn't change. and your strategy doesn't, our strategy doesn't have to change if we throw up or not. If it's nauseousness, which is a precursor to throwing up, it's like, I got your back. I'm not going anywhere. I give you full permission, and I got you. And that's really what it needs. Because again, you had parts that were afraid, and I fully allowed you to be afraid. There's 0%. It's like, there,
Right.
don't be afraid, don't cry.
Right.
Is that's kind of resisting. It's just like you can be perfectly you, and I'm not even trying to change it. Let's just see what happens if the divine touches what you're afraid of or what you're struggling with. Oh, it
Yeah.
feels better. Okay, cool. Did it change? Well, my feeling changed, but I didn't change. I'm like, but you kind
Right.
of did too. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of it, because I last threw up last year. I was pregnant, I was trying a new medication, and I had a really bad reaction to it. Um, I was 2 feet from the toilet. And I had to clean up the floor too. So that kind of added to how annoying it was. Not even uncomfortable, but I'm a lot more comfortable with myself throwing up now. And I think it's because, like you're saying, I have that inside information. I know how I feel. I know if I'm just queasy, if I'm nauseous, if I'm gonna throw up, and how to handle it if I do. I think now it has become this, I'm responsible for someone else and I don't have that information. I don't know how she feels. I don't know if she's actually going to throw up. I don't know how uncomfortable she is and what she needs from me. She doesn't know because she's two.
What's the best way to get that information directly?
The divine.
Yeah. It's such a shortcut cheat code to life. Is like
Yeah.
when you don't know, why don't you know? Because it's not within your mental map. Why doesn't she know? Because
Yeah.
it's not within her mental map. Where's the divine beyond the mental map that can actually enter the mental map?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But the divine itself, like, generally exists beyond the mind. That's why the
Right.
mind can't experience the divine because the mind can't really experience anything. But that's when people's minds try to hold on to it. It's like any
Yeah.
definition or label of the divine is a limitation of the divine. That the
Yeah.
mind
Yeah.
is, which is good, bad, right, or wrong. It is like it's way more than that too.
Right.
And so it's just asking the divine directly. And again, it needs to be in the room because if it's in space, good luck having a relationship with an astronaut,
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't work. So in the room and then inside of you, and then if there's anything inside that needs it, that can go there too. But then just ask directly, what does she need? And that goes back to the trusting and listening. That's like very intelligent. That's connected feminine energy that's teaming up too. Like you're not meant to as a mother, like the whole you're responsible for that. So you're responsible for every heartbeat, for every breath, for every digestion. No, you can't even do that for yourself. Like
Right.
you can do things for your breath, but and digestion, but like there's just so many things that we're it's out of our control that's already automatically happening. But as a mother, that's something you've learned, and it's in the collective consciousness of women. I'm a mother and I'm responsible for it. Is that connected to the divine or not? I already know the answer. It's not. So
Right.
ask the
Right.
divine is around and go inside, share the load, share the responsibility. Or how about 100% give over your responsibility to the divine? Doesn't mean you're not going to do the things. It's just there's times when you're gonna need to surrender.
Yeah.
Sickness or pain or just things that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Relax, breathe, calm yourself, and then ask. I need you to help this person. I need you to help my daughter. I need you to help us. Whatever it is, ask. So much transformation and healing is one question away. Then people forget that. It's like people forget to
Yeah.
ask. It's one of the simplest things that we learn when we're kids, but our whole lives, we need to keep asking, keep asking,
Yeah.
keep asking, and keep receiving. And the more we ask, the more we receive, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because that also brings up anxiety, I guess, about but how do I know if it's anxiety or intuition? But like you said, if I'm calming and centering and in that moment, asking for the divine to come in, asking for an answer of, you know, what do I need to do? What does she need? Then that feels different.
Yeah, there's levels. What do I need to do? What does she need? Can you just give her what she needs? Can you just give us what we need? Because
Okay.
doing is still masculine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just there's connected masculine, there's disconnected masculine. Like if you ever see like a movie and mothers freak out, like, oh, my child, and they're just masculinely yelling or being hysterical. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. But what if you're just relaxed and calm and ask the divine to take over?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
sometimes you need to do, sometimes you do not need to do. You need to
Yeah.
be. You need to allow. Again,
Okay.
the doing is masculine. If it's without the divine, it's disconnected masculine. With the
Yeah.
divine, it's connected masculine. Sometimes you need to be. If it's without the divine, it's laziness, it's disconnected feminine. If it's with the divine, it's connected feminine.
Okay.
So I can't tell you in the future, like how many percentage of time you have to show up in the moment and use your
Mhm.
intuition. If you said, how do I can tell it's my intuition or anxiety? Ask the divine to surround and go inside of both, and it will be obvious.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Tell me more what's behind the cough that your unconscious mind wants to communicate. Because I'm listening.
I don't know. Let me ask. Because consciously I have an answer, but that's what
What's
I
the
was just
first
telling
there?
Amanda last night. That's the conscious answer is that I have a an upper respiratory infection. But I was just telling Amanda last night, I'm curious about what happened to allow that in. And it's stress and control, stress of trying to control.
And if you grab how much does stress weigh and how much does control weigh?
Realistically or in my mind?
Yes, in your mind.
The weight of the world, everything.
So can you put your hands on it?
It's like a huge boulder. My
Can
hands
you
can't
put your
fit
hands
around
on
it.
it? Can you touch it?
Theoretically, not
Yeah.
realistically.
Put your hands out and theoretically mentally touch it. And then just say, I transfer this stress and this control to you, the divine. I give it over to you. Take it, take it off, take it off my hands. And then if I can
Okay.
pick it up like a morsel, like a sand, like a giant picking up a piece of sand, or
But I don't have to. Yeah, because the divine can take it. Okay. Yeah, good. That's a lot better. That feels like a lot less work. That feels more like being.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a limiting belief about mothering, parenting, how you have to I have to know everything and have the right answer for everything
Where did
for
you
a
learn
good
that?
mom. Probably from my mom. She's a very anxious, don't be upset. I'll fix everything.
Where did she learn that?
I don't know. I
Oh.
surely from her parenting, but I don't think her mom did that. I mean her the parenting she received.
Well, it could have been however far back it goes. You can just ask the divine to go there too as well. You can ask the divine to give her what she needs according to the divine, even right now. Because uptight parents are unloved kids on some level, which isn't good, bad, right, or wrong. It's just like, oh, you're unloved. Let's bring love there.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, because
uptight.
it's
Gotta
focusing,
control. Yep.
right. It's focusing more on that than being and the relationship, which also means not trying to go back and control or fix my mom's reactions now.
No one's asking the divine to go between you and her, to surround you, to surround her, to go inside of you, to go inside of her, and completely just take over everything.
Okay. That allows more fun in. Like in every aspect of my life. I think I didn't realize how much I was holding and carrying the stress and the pressure and the control, and I have to have all the answers. I have to do everything right. I have to fix everything. I have to do everything. That doesn't allow any
All
fun.
all by yourself. I have to do fix, control everything all by myself without help from the divine or the rest of humanity.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
say that out
That's
loud,
my
it's
job. It's
ridiculous
crazy. Yes.
and it's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
You like, there's just certain things, there's no need for control. There's the whole, it takes a village. That's why, like, we go to specialists. That's why there's other people, there's other women that are better than you at certain things that you're gonna invite into your lives that's gonna help your family and other men, same thing. And you're gonna be better than other people. It just, we're here to help each other and we all have our zone of geniuses and it's the way it's meant to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to get to the truth and saying out loud, I'm gonna do all these things without the help of the entire universe and that which created it. That
How does that
there's
make sense?
no other experience but suffering and loneliness. There's no other
Right.
option. That's the only
Yeah.
possible thing, and the only reason suffering and loneliness can happen if the divine is far away.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
literally feedback. If anyone in the history of humanity has ever felt lonely or whatever, it's because the divine is far away. The literally spiritual tape measure is fully extended. It's beyond that. So just invite it in.
Yeah. I think I need to do that with fear in general because I mean, having having struggled with anxiety my whole life, now as a parent, there's this anxiety of, oh my God, what if I lose my child? What if something happens to one of my kids?
So go
And
ahead
then
and
there's
ask the divine that question right now
okay,
and tell me what the answer is.
you'll be fine. That I mean, just that every experience in life is it just is. And a fear is not reality. So stop living outside of reality. Okay. That is about unprocessed grief
Which grief?
from miscarriages.
And if you ask the divine why the miscarriages happened, the answer is why they happened for you. The answer is
I think there's a lot with that.
yeah.
I think to have a deeper understanding of loss and to connect with other people within that and to help assuage my anxieties and fears for the future.
So
To be able to have a
can
big outreach to those to other people that have experienced it.
So can you express gratitude to the beings and the miscarriages for helping you learn these lessons, receive these tools and resources to be able to further fulfill your life's purpose? It's interesting how relationships work because if you have your kids and you're going to be around, like, let's say you outlive your kids, but then you had these beings, which could have been your kids, come into your life, like almost like you're traveling here, it's like an asteroid, like boom, and then
Yeah,
it affects you, but it's just as important, except you just don't have the long relationship where you
yeah,
get in fights and stuff like that. But it's just like how powerful can a relationship be if like however long they were part of your life there, it redirected you. It's very
yeah, yeah, really redirected. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That connects in a lot of ways. Pieces coming together. Okay. Okay.
how's that feeling inside right now?
Knowing, understanding, peace. Mm.
It's interesting how peace works when you get pieces of you back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
How does it feel to get space held, like such sacred space held for you to be able to do
Really
this?
good. Really like a shared burden so that I don't have to be the one holding it for everybody and myself.
And what's the burden?
Discomfort, processing discomfort, holding discomfort, understanding this discomfort,
Got it. That's
and having
honestly
to have all the answers,
having the what?
having to have all the answers.
Hmm. Because you're not built or born to have all the answers.
No, it's self-imposed.
The art and the skill of learning how to become comfortably uncomfortable is like such a superpower in every area of life. And there's no way to cheat it. And it only comes through repetitions and
Yeah.
relaxing, breathing deeper, teaming up with the divine. But it's such a advantage and superpower.
Yeah, yeah. And it's that's the kind of therapy that I practice. That's kind of therapy my therapist uses with me. But it's like I was saying yesterday, it still feels like, oh, it has to be this way, right? Like again, I have to have all the answers of how to do it instead of just being. And then it just is.
Yeah.
And just facilitating. I think that's what I need to be more at one with, just being a facilitator instead of having answers.
Instead of the originator of everything.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Facilitator rhymes, but it's way better to keep
Yeah.
that. Yeah. To feel that instead of the originator be the facilitator.
Yeah. Yes. That feels right. Yeah.
That's the divine flow comes to and through you. And that's
Right.
part of the work that you're, a huge part of the work that you're here to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I was told that a long time ago. So I guess it's about time to
Mhm.
realize it.
Anything else while we're here? Because if there's anything else that your unconscious mind wants to pop up, might as well.
Let's see.
Because we're on a roll.
Yeah. I think the only piece is my relationship with my role as a wife or just a partner in general. Just again, those that self-imposed, not that I have to have all the answers, but that it has to be right. And it's got to be, I mean, kind of having all the answers being 10 out of 10 in all aspects.
Has to be right according to whom?
Me, society, complaints from my husband.
What's one of your husband's complaints?
Uh, he feels like the burden is on him for running the house, chores, mental decision fatigue stuff.
And then what is your guys' strategy? Because I know that that comes up in my relationship with Amanda sometimes where people don't fully understand balance. Balance isn't always 50-50. Balance might be 100-0 and then 100-0.
Yeah.
Like balance, how much time do we have for balance, right? So there's going to be times, the way I talk about it, there's 4 seasons in a relationship, every relationship. Um, Kind of like winter, spring, summer, and fall. It's more like summer, spring, fall, winter, meaning like summer is when you're up and your husband's up. So you both are doing
Mhm.
good, things are flowing, it's awesome. Spring is you're up and he's down. Fall is you're down and he's up, and winter is
Mhm.
you're both down.
Yeah.
Gonna keep going through those things, whether you're both sick or whether there's a financial crisis or death in the family. Who knows? There's just gonna be things that are happening. Some people, they don't do well. If everyone's doing good, they have to self-sabotage. Some
Yeah.
people, they don't do well if they're above and they're low. Like, get your shit together. And like, you know what I mean? Some people
Yeah.
like don't do well. It's like the world's falling apart. I'm so, go away from me. I'm too ugly. Or
Mhm.
when people are both down, some people don't do well at not doing well. And
Yeah.
all those are a skill set in every relationship to be able to develop. And it's going to continuously happen. So it's really good for that. But the point is, if he's saying like the burden and stress on me, I'm like, okay. Like if I was there, what I would do is like say like let's get a pen and paper, easel or whatever, Excel, whatever. Get whatever's all in your head, let's get it all out. And let's see what we can, is there anything we can cross off the list? Is there anything
Mhm.
we can delegate? Is there anything we can team up with? Is there anything I can take off your plate? That will go a
Yeah.
long way. Long way. Anytime anyone feels overwhelmed, sweet. I get excited because I'm like, awesome. I know what's going to happen next. I always get excited no matter what happens. I know what's going to
Yeah.
happen next. We're going to take what's in your head. We're going to put it outside. We're going to see, can we cross off anything? It might be yes, might be no. Can we delegate? Can we team up? It's 4 different categories. And then can I take this off your plate? That,
Mhm.
that will go a long way because that's what overwhelm is. Anyone that feels overwhelmed, it's I have to do all these things more than I'm capable of doing, and I'm the only one in the history of humanity, the whole entire universe that can do
Do
it,
it.
which is
Mhm.
ridiculous. Again, if you say that out loud, there's a million things. Is there really a million things? You couldn't write down a million things. You said
Right.
million. It's an exaggeration. Write them all down. Is it a million? Try not even 100. So, but it's an exaggeration. It's a million things, but I'm the only one that can do it. And
Yeah.
it's 100% of humans feel the same way when they feel that. That's what the overwhelm
Yeah.
is, but it's
Yeah.
not reality, as you say.
Yeah.
So, a really great wife could use that strategy, be like, let's sit down, let's light a sacred candle, let's Like, and without resisting it, kind of like the throwing up strategy. You can be frustrated, you can be overwhelmed, you can be whatever you want. I'm gonna like, not like I'm gonna allow you to do it, but I'm gonna allow them with inside. I don't even have to say anything, but maybe you can like, I'm gonna allow whatever is gonna happen. Like, you're not gonna find any resistance from me. Just holding space and love. Let's get it out. So let's vent it out or whatever. Then it's written. We'll go through the other things. That's literally an overwhelm strategy they would teach to my students, to not only to them to do, but them to do as coaches or for their family.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been in the middle of that task for a year. So,
So what might be good is to wipe the slate clean and start a new list. Like sometimes we've done that too. I've done that before where we start things and it's like, "Ugh," but like maybe get away. If there's like a beach, go to a beach and then do it. Go have
yeah.
fun, but get change scenery. So that's another thing too, is I love my house. I have the coolest house ever. It's literally my dream house.
Yeah.
Oh, and we do so much creation here, which is great, building courses, helping so many people. But sometimes, like, I just need a break. Not that there's anything negative. It's not like I need a break from you. It's just I need to change the scenery. I need to like go for a drive. I need to go do something cool. Um, go. So that's like really important too. If people work from home or whatever, like get out of the house, go somewhere. It's a totally different neutral. Like nature is so good for it because nature's
Mhm.
constantly changing. Houses don't change unless you get a little dustier. But if you're not changing the paint, you're not rearranging the furniture, houses don't change very much. Nature's always changing. That's why
Yeah.
people get connected more with nature because it forces you to be in peripheral awareness. Otherwise, you're going to trip. You're going to be one of those people on their phones that fall in the water
Right.
fountains, which
Right.
we're too old for that though. So
That makes sense. Okay. Just checking in.
yeah, you're doing a great job.
Feels stable. Feels good.
So I'm excited to hear from you the next queasy, nauseous, throw up, you, somebody else experience.
You know,
And
I could test myself too because though I have gotten a lot better with it, like the show Jackass, hate it because there's always puking. And why is that funny?
I don't
But
understand why they do the puking, but some of
it
the stuff,
doesn't,
I'm like,
but my husband, he's like, he cannot stop laughing if it's a like when someone, yeah, just something where it's like an instantaneous, why would you do that? It cracks him up. And there are a lot of people like that. So I could test myself with watching an episode of Jackass as a one step. But I mean it has been constant trigger lately, and this has just kind of morphed into my kids being sick in general. But I'm realizing when that trigger does come up, it's still this like, is she gonna throw up? Is this gonna lead to something where they're gonna throw up? So there have been a lot of triggers lately. I think just because of some different variables with sicknesses, but I should for sure over the next week have incidences that normally would be a trigger, that in the past would have been a trigger. So
if I paid you $10,000 right now, could you get triggered? Could you find a trigger? Because if it's really healed and upgraded, you
yeah,
can't. You won't be able to find it. And if there's anything left, then we just deal with that. So I'm just curious, can you find a trigger? Like try to.
like just putting myself in that place.
Sure. Yeah.
I think my daughter's that whiny cry because she has also learned that it triggers me. So she's
So let's
learned
do
to do
this.
it.
This works 100% of the time, and it's goofy and funny. But once I figured it out, like years ago, it works. It's 100% success rate.
Okay.
So can you, again, we're not doing this in the physical world, it's in the psychological world, but it's going to make changes. So let's give it a try. So can you hear your daughter's whiny cry?
Yeah.
And you see the divine kind of rolling in like a helium tank into the room,
Mm. Yeah.
the hose.
Hmm.
And then again, this is in the physical world, this is just inside, and it's very quick. So just have the divine put that hose up her butt, turn it on, and tell me what that sounds like out of her mouth.
Sounds funny.
What happened to the trigger?
Changed. Now it's amusing, which also makes it amusing of like you're just being a 2-year-old. You're
Mhm.
whining because you know I give you a popsicle and take you outside when you do that because it makes me more comfortable just in case you're nauseous.
So it's being resourceful in a way, like she's getting what she wants, but there's other ways to get what she wants.
Yeah, but it's preying on the phobia and ingraining it.
Yeah. But how's that feel different now?
That feels it does feel different. Yeah.
It works
Feels
100% of
better.
the time. It came to me one time working with somebody and it was like they had a negative self voice and
Yeah.
majority of the time it's not their voice. I'm like, whose voice is it? Oh my God, no one's ever asked me that. It's my mom's. And then
Yeah.
so like and it was like abusive situation. It doesn't matter if it's a silly thing or it's a audio trigger. It works 100% of the time. But like
That's That's so from the divine because that's something they teach for the type of therapy that I use to change it to have them do a Mickey Mouse or a Donald Duck voice or Daffy Duck, whoever it is.
yeah.
That's awesome.
But it's just so
That's
much easier. It doesn't make logical sense if you put helium up your butt. You're not gonna in the
yeah,
physical world, it's not gonna work. But in the psychological world, it's
right.
hilarious. It's like baby, baby, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it should and then because then I'm in the psychological terms of the therapy we use, then we're defusing from it and become the observer of the situation.
Yeah. Disassociate.
Yeah, yeah.
So just like remove the anchor and disassociate is from NLP, neuro-linguistic psychology
Yeah.
terms.
Okay. 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 Perfect. I love it.
Yeah. Awesome job today.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Me too.
I'm like I want to walk outside and see someone throwing up.
Yeah. Start punching people.
Right, yeah, right in the jejunum.
Yeah. No, it will come to you, but again, it's you're gonna be you might be pleasantly surprised. Like, I had a teacher that when I was in school, she told me about a phobia that she did, that she was doing on a lady. So the woman came with her daughter, and they both had phobias of cats. I think they were black cats. And she came for her daughter because she thought she was too far in the hole. She's like, I'm too old. So
Yeah.
come bring my daughter. And then so what happened was my teacher calibrated and was like, actually, the problem's coming from the mom. The mom started it, the daughter took it on. So she's like, can we actually talk to you? Oh, why me? Started talking to her, cleared the phobia, and literally they had like 30 to 50 cats like every day that would come to their property. And it wasn't a like they were attracting it because it's whatever you resist persists. And if you have
Right.
energy you put, so like literally had all these stray cats. And my teacher said she did the session, cleared it, and then she's like, well, some people like right away they know they're like, I can't get I can't get it back. Other people like, oh, I gotta test it. So she was one of the people that had to test it. And then 2 weeks later, I think, or a week later, my teacher called and she's like, how's that, phobia, and how's the whatever? She's like, I don't know if it works. She's like, what do you mean? Well, ever since we left you, like there's been no cats in our neighborhood, so we can't test it. And it's because
Perfect.
80% of the time when you switch it, literally 80% of the time with our heart center NLP, like miraculously, mysteriously, coincidentally, the same thing doesn't happen. Doesn't matter what it is. It just doesn't happen in the universe anymore.
The
10% of the
universe is the universe can't reflect what's not there, right?
Right. Yep.
That makes sense. Awesome.
Yeah. So
Cool.
I feel it's going to be few and far in between because that's what happened to me. It's what happens to 100% of people that I ever do
Yeah.
phobias with. So, again, the rest of your life, is the thing going to happen? Sure. Are you going to respond the same way? No. If there's anything else that comes up, we'll just clean it up, clear it up. But
Awesome.
you're good.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm so grateful.
Big air
Yes.
hug. Mhm. Well, we'll touch base too. We'll check in. Like I said, you can reach out to me first, or I'll reach out to you because I'm just very curious because like I said, it's a game changer. You're kind of explaining how it's kind of painting you in a corner with possibilities of life, and that's not
Yeah.
any way to live. So this is just going to open
Yeah.
something up for you.
Yes. Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much.